It hasn't been a favorable week for Keir Starmer, as several of his key figures have stepped down from their roles. We've seen resignations coming from all directions. First, we had Cabinet Secretary Simon Case announcing his departure, and recently Sue Gray has also resigned. But things are set to get even worse. In today's video, we will break down everything, including the upcoming crisis vote in Parliament and why a moment of accountability is approaching. But before we dive in, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and become part of our rapidly growing community. First off, Sue Gray, the former civil servant who previously served as Chief of Staff at Downing Street, has now resigned from her post. Number 10 has confirmed that Gray will be taking up a new position as the Prime Minister's envoy for nations and regions. This move follows weeks of speculation surrounding her role after negative press overshadowed Labour's first party conference since their victory in May. Gray's resignation signals a notable shift within Keir Starmer's team just months after Labour's election win. Richard Tice, leader of the Reform UK party, delivered a harsh critique during an interview. He said, "Earlier this year, I coined the term Starmageddon. Little did anyone know it would unfold on a much bigger scale." Tice went on to describe the situation as complete disorder that makes the chaotic Tory government seem like a beacon of stability. He accused Labour of corruption running from top to bottom, from suits to spectacles, implying deep-rooted problems within the party's shift to power. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, expressed his gratitude for Gray's contributions. He stated, "I want to extend my thanks to Sue for all her support, both during our time in opposition and in government, and for her work in preparing us to govern and helping us launch our program of change." Starmer highlighted Gray's continued role, stating, "Sue has been instrumental in strengthening our ties with the regions and nations. I am thrilled that she will continue to assist in this effort as the envoy for regions and nations." Gray's resignation and subsequent role change bring questions about the stability of Labour's transition to governance. Her departure, just months after the party's victory, could undermine confidence in Starmer's leadership team. However, Starmer now faces an additional challenge with an imminent rebellion in the House of Commons. This stems from the recent announcement by Starmer and David Lammy regarding the Chagos Islands. They have proposed transferring sovereignty of these islands to Mauritius, a country closely aligned with the Chinese Communist Party. Let's put aside for a moment the fact that the small population living on these islands prefers to remain British and has no historical connection to Mauritius. In fact, these islands have never been part of Mauritius, making this issue even more complicated. The wishes of the local people seem to be completely disregarded. Consider Diego Garcia, the largest island in the Chagos archipelago, which serves as a strategic military base for both the US and the UK. This too is now under threat. Meanwhile, pressure is mounting on Parliament to vote on this matter. Interestingly, both Lammy and Starmer have expressed disdain for the House of Commons. In a previous interview, Starmer admitted that he favors the World Economic Forum in Davos because it allows him more freedom with less accountability. Imagine if our entire world functioned that way, the Tories pretending to be an opposition while offering no real resistance. A recent political cartoon captured this well. It depicted Lammy and Starmer on one side, with Liz Truss and James Cleverly, the former Foreign Secretary, who initially suggested handing over the Chagos sovereignty, on the other. Now they're all acting outraged, blaming one another for the situation. But let's be clear, this idea did not originate with Labour. It started with James Cleverly. It's a classic example of the uniparty, where everyone points fingers while avoiding responsibility. As we look ahead, it's evident that this dynamic will persist, especially with the Tories in opposition. We'll keep you updated as Parliament debates this issue, as it will be interesting to see how the vote unfolds. What are your thoughts on this and Keir Starmer? Let me know in the comments below. In other news, a new study has revealed that Britain has the highest number of illegal migrants in Europe. Research led by experts at Oxford University found that there are up to 745,000 illegal migrants in the UK, accounting for 1 in 100 people living in the country. Britain's numbers compare to 300,000 illegal migrants in France and 700,000 in Germany, which has the second highest number of illegal migrants in Europe. This comes after 973 migrants crossed the English Channel on Saturday in 2024. the highest number to arrive on a single day in 2024. So far this year, a total of 26,612 migrants have crossed the channel, up 5% compared to this point in 2023, though still behind the record of 33,600 at this time in 2022. Keir Starmer has faced harsh criticism from senior Tories after Labour scrapped the Rwanda scheme. The government is now facing pressure to crack down on the people smuggling gangs responsible for the crisis. James Cleverly, the Shadow Home Secretary, said, "We need to deter people from coming here illegally and remove them from our economy if they are already here." Labour has promised to address the people smuggling gangs by creating a new border security command. Far from softening its stance, this new government has increased returns of those living illegally in the UK and has set up the new border security command to aggressively pursue the criminal gangs profiting from these small boat crossings, undermining our national security and putting lives in danger. "We are getting a handle on the chaos caused by the previous government's approach," said a Home Office source to The Telegraph. Tory leadership contenders, meanwhile, are clinging to the Rwanda partnership, which spent £700 million to send just 4 volunteers. Perhaps it's time for them to learn from their mistakes instead of doubling down. The research estimated that the number of illegal migrants in the UK is between 594,000 and 745,000. Dennis Kiernan, a senior researcher at Oxford's Compass Migration Centre, emphasized that it is crucial for policymakers to understand the scale of this issue. These are people living and working in the UK, but they're doing so outside of the mainstream tax and welfare systems. What this means is that the state is missing out on their contributions to public funds, while they themselves are at risk of exploitation and poverty. Finally, King Charles's doctors have allowed him to pause his cancer treatment when he flies to Australia next week. The 75-year-old monarch is scheduled to begin an official tour on October 18th, visiting Sydney and Canberra, followed by a state visit to Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, CHOGM. But his doctors are comfortable with temporarily stopping the treatment during his trip. He will resume his treatment regimen as soon as he returns to the UK. Thank you for watching. Take care and goodbye.